Alright, I have finally seen the first season of Witcher. I actually saw it a few days ago, but I was waiting to review it up till now because I just got back to New York. I was settling down and screenings were happening. So I needed to get my groove back for a minute, needed a quiet moment, and now I can finally talk to you about the first season of this. And because this has been out for almost a month now, there are going to be some spoilers in this review. You have been warned. I know most of you have already seen this season, so this is a pretty late review. I'm coming to this a bit later than I probably should have. Nonetheless, The Witcher is based on the popular video game franchise of the same name, as well as the novels. This is based more on the novels than the video games, though it has been stated by the creator. And this show is about the world that The Witcher inhabits, named Geralt, played by Henry Cavill, and it's about his adventures throughout the land over years, as well as other characters in the play, such as Yennefer, played by Anya Chalotra, and Princess Cirilla, and how these three characters are having their own things as they start to converge towards the end of the season. I'm going to talk more about that convergence a little bit later, but for now, how did I find the first season of The Witcher? Overall, there is a lot to like in the first season, and there's a lot of really great aspects. But there's also some things I did not like about it. I want to talk about those as well. And like I said, there are going to be some spoilers in this review. You have been warned. Let's talk about the biggest negatives first. I want to get that out of the way and then I'll focus solely on the positives. My biggest negative is most of the first half of the season. This is very uneven storytelling for the most part. It takes a while for it to really get going, and for the longest time I felt like it was kind of going through the motions, and I was kind of worried at first because I was hoping that this would not be the case for the entire season. Gratefully, it's not. But the first few episodes, particularly the first 3 episodes, felt one to be dragging. The pace was extremely off, and it was very inconsistent, especially like I said in the storytelling. But also, it was very exposition heavy, and a lot of points where they could have shown you certain things, they choose to explain it in long, monotonous monologues. For instance, early on, Stegobor or whatever his name is, and he's telling Geralt the story about this woman who's coming to kill him. And for the longest time, this scene is basically just him walking around telling the story, and you're just there. You're just watching him tell the story. And I thought this was such a wasted opportunity because they could have easily shown some of this, but they chose not to. At one point in time, you're introduced to this band of elves which is hanging on, and they're trying to rebel against other kingdoms, and they're very desperate, and they're talking about how they've come to this point. And I was also having a hard time connecting with that because I wish I had seen that. I wish I had seen those conflicts come together and they happen, so I could actually have something to care about a little bit more. But it chooses to focus more on, again, long exposition and not a lot of great visually interesting things in those scenes happening to make them a little more wondrous to watch, even if they are exposition filled. Which of course brings me to the timeline stuff, which has been a point of divisiveness for a lot of people. Some people are on board with it, some people are very far away from it. I think that the second half of the season stabilizes this a lot more than the first half. The first half is very jumbled in this, and it takes a while for you to first of all understand that these are taking place over 3 different timelines. But at the same time, I feel like it handles it in a very choppy way, and it's not as smooth in terms of its transitions towards to the other things that I wish it was. And this is not the first time I've seen a non-linear story told. It's been done many, many times. But even in those situations, there's often a few little subtle differences here and there for you to understand that this is taking place now and this is taking place later. Color change of color palettes. That's the main thing. Like Little Women just did this, and Little Women jumps between 7 years prior and what's going on right now, and there are warmer colors used for the 7 years ago stuff, and there's colder, more winter-like coloring used for the present day stuff. I wish there were a couple of moments like that, just so we had a quick glimpse of it, or the characters maybe looked a little bit different, but Geralt looks the same throughout the entire thing, and so do the other characters inhabiting the space. Of course, these are things that do get better later on, but it does make that first half of the show suffer because of it. And that was easily the weakest part for me. Once you're past those initial roadblocks, though, there is a lot to appreciate about the season, which is where now I get into my positives. Now that I've got that out of the way, the stuff I liked is also quite a bit. Visually, it's a really fairly good season. It's not perfect. There are visual effects in it which could have seriously used some refining. There's a couple of points where I was like, that's CGI. That's very blatant CGI. But there are other points where it's very seamless and the production design is to be praised. And pretty much most of the technical aspects of this work really, really well. In terms of the characters, Geralt is great. Henry Cavill has done a wonderful job. You don't get to know much about Geralt. It's left very mysterious, and you start to get some answers as the season comes to a close with his childhood and how he ended up where he is. Of course, I'm sure they'll explore this a little bit more in season 2, but there is some on and off in terms of how much you know about him, and I wish there was a little bit more we knew about him. But again, he's supposed to be a little bit more mysterious, and that's fine. I'm choosing to judge this, by the way, more as its own show. I know I can choose to judge it as an adaptation, but it is its own adaptation, and that's why I'm choosing to look at it more as a TV show rather than how it adheres to the games and the books. Full disclosure, I have not played the games. I've seen gameplay of the game, so I'm very familiar with it, and I'm familiar with story beats. But I feel like if you're gonna do something like a movie or a show of a property, it should work in both ways. You can look at it as a fan, and you can also look at it as its own thing, because not everybody is familiar with the material. I have some knowledge, but a lot of people may not have that same knowledge, and so it can be, you need to know how to write that line carefully. With that in mind, I think though they did a great job with Geralt, and I also really like the fact that Henry Cavill's voice is very similar to the voice Geralt has in the games. That was a nice little tidbit. It's that very gravelous, deep, grim voice, and I don't know why exactly I'm talking like this now, but fuck. But my favorite character of the entire season was not Geralt. It was Yennefer, Anya Chalotra's character. I thought she was great. I know Yennefer from the games. I know her from as a character and what she can do. But this was easily the most fascinating story of the entire season. The way she starts out, what she becomes, the character she meets along the way, her relationship with Geralt. All of these things were easily my favorite parts of the entire season. I also think that as an actress, she's really good. She has a lot of demanding scenes, and she pulled it off for the most part in a really, really terrific way. I think she's a really great actress. I'd love to see her in more stuff after this. The storyline with Princess Cyrilla, which is the present day stuff, she did a great job. The storyline can not be the most interesting. You know, it can definitely be the one part of it which is like, all right, this is... let's get back to the fun stuff with Geralt and Yennefer and Jaskier, who is Geralt's friend who sings that earworm of a song, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. It's playing in your head now, isn't it? Because I said the name of it out loud. And once the season starts to come to a close and you start to get answers on what Calanthe has done, Queen Calanthe, and how this is going to affect the story going forward, and the war which is going on from Nilfgaard, and how all of that's finally coming together with the different witches fighting against each other, and the one witch was leading that charge. Those little things, as they start to finally come to that conclusion, I think it worked out fairly solidly, and I thought the world building was fascinating. That is one word I can use to actually describe the entire show. It's fascinating. But I think that its full potential is yet to be realized, and I think in season 2, I would like if they are able to fine-tune the issues that I hear a few of them, and especially the first half. Once they fine-tune those things, I think you will have an amazing show on your hands. It's already technically amazing. Now, narratively, it can be a lot better. But I guess we'll have to wait for season 2 for that. That being said, The Witcher is still a really fun time. There's a lot to like in it. There are, like I said, those issues that do persist, but overall, I still recommend seeing it if you've not seen it yet. And if you have seen it so far, let me know what you guys thought of it. Again, I don't think this is a bad season. I think it's fine, but I'm hoping for greatness as the story progresses. I'm gonna give The Witcher Season 1 a B-. A fun enough Season 1. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.